Hello, Earthlings. I'm Lauren Evanthia, and beside me is my husband Des, and we are presenting yet another interesting news article on this channel, which is called Stranger Than Fiction, because truth indeed is stranger than fiction.
If we're speaking to Earthlings or aliens, welcome.
I suppose.
You suppose.
We're an inclusive society.
Absolutely.
We're covering this article on News 24 called Four African Nations Barred from Attending US-Africa Summit in Washington. But that headline is not what is interesting. I wish you could see the picture I'm looking at. It's President Joe Biden shaking hands with Cyril Ramaphosa. I honestly think that Joe Biden is one of my favorite personalities that exist in the universe.
Please explain. I can't wait to hear this.
He's funny in every way.
And he's only the president of what is supposed to be the greatest superpower on earth, and what they call the freest nation on earth.
It's scary. But I suppose yes. This is, I think America is a prime example of how you really do get the leaders you deserve. And it's a very hard pill to swallow, but it's true.
I really cannot believe that is the best they could come up with. This is a setup. It has to be a setup.
When I watch those videos of people asking Americans random questions like, tell me a country in Africa, and they get the most weirdest answers.
They don't know Africa exists.
I always like to think that those are just set up, that people can't be that stupid. But I suppose the president of the country reflects the IQ of its citizens. Directly proportional.
Or the state of the education system, of course.
Yeah, and our education system, America's education system, Britain's education system, even Australia's education system is just indoctrination.
Is wokeism actually a subject at school now?
I suppose, without it being blatant.
Because they're not teaching the world about other countries, etc. And by the way, that's something that we'd really like to do, is teach you about countries around the world. And we're talking about Africa and 4 countries not being represented.
But that's the least interesting part of the article. But anyway.
Please explain.
Zimbabwe has been invited for the first time, but its president can't attend because of travel restrictions. We'll read more about that later.
Isn't Cyril Ramaphosa begging? I think he was begging the UK Prime Minister to actually lift restrictions on Zimbabwe. And maybe that is why he can't leave his own country. Hilarious. They are a land-bound country, Zimbabwe. They don't have a port. So you can't row your boat. It's not going to work.
It's more difficult to escape. The US says it is seeking to engage in a mutually respectful manner. I hope this is streamed live because I'll definitely be watching. I love it. The United States will host 49 African heads of state and the African Union envoy in Washington for a 3-day US-Africa summit between the 13th and 15th of December, and I'll be sitting there with my popcorn ready to watch.
That sounds like they're ready to take over Africa.
That's
the Russians tried and failed. The Chinese are trying, and I'm not sure if they're failing yet.
Well, it says
but the US is competing now.
Of course, our new colonizers. The US views this as an opportunity to strengthen ties with Africa. What do you think that means? I would like to pose a question, rhetorical, or please feel free to comment in the comment section below. Do you think Africa, and specifically South Africa, needs the US, or do you think the US needs Africa? What do you think? Put your thoughts in the comments below.
That's a brilliant question. I think we would sit here for about 2 hours if I have to explain why the US has been pillaging South Africa and the southern African region specifically, and now expanding into many other countries within Africa. I mean, they built most of their superpowers off of Africa and exploiting the country. So, I mean, why is he inviting these people there? I don't think they're friends with him unless he's going to offer these politicians a lot of money, or his crony friends. Maybe FTX. Well, they bankrupt, I forget.
FTX is another video topic we can engage in. But I think this is the whole point. To strengthen ties with Africa just suggests that the US intends on exploiting Africa even further. It is the second such summit under US President Joe Biden's administration, with the inaugural one hosted around the same time last year. The summit gets underway with an advantage after the Russia-Africa version did not materialize. So civil society organizations from all these nations are also going to attend. And this is an important one because we need to realize that there's going to be so many different organizations used to spread a specific agenda. And it says here, we do have plans to incorporate members of their civil societies and their communities in the dialogue and in the conversation in the civil society forum, and perhaps in some other engagements that are planned.
Who are these people that is going to represent civil society? That should be fascinating to see. I can't wait, actually.
Unelected people, that's for sure. Indoctrinated people, that's definitely for sure. So Zimbabwe, which was snubbed last year, was invited to the summit, but President Emerson is unable to attend because of travel restrictions. Instead, Foreign Affairs Minister Frederick Shava, a former envoy to the UN in Washington, will make the trip.
But they must be needing something from Zimbabwe at the moment, for sure.
Definitely. And what do you think that is?
It could be many things. Zimbabwe was called the breadbasket of Africa. Now people are telling us that if wheat is not exported from the Ukraine, the entire world is going to starve. Where South Africa had some of the largest wheat fields in the world, and so did Zimbabwe and many other countries. So there's something very fishy going on here. I don't see why we need the US at all for anything, except for politicians being bribed with money.
For international relations.
Straight to the back pocket.
Okay, so this is important. According to Scott, there will be a series of forums: an African and Diaspora Young Leaders Forum, a civil society forum, a peace, security, and governance forum on the first day. So what can you tell us about young leadership programs?
Well, the World Economic Forum jumps to mind straight away. Klaus Schwab and his minions. There's many other organizations like that actually train these young, what I call New World Order leaders, because they are trying to establish a New World Order and they want to influence politicians and many other organizations, the banking system, all big corporations out there, and then, of course, the people in government. When Klaus Schwab brags about the fact that leaders of countries all were trained through the World Economic Forum, you should ask yourself, but what's going on here? Because Schwabi has not been elected by anyone.
Definitely unelected. But I think I just want to bring it back to, the ordinary person who doesn't necessarily have any interest in politics, and definitely not international politics. We will read a headline and we'll read that a country is engaging in talks with America or some other superpower. And it somehow perhaps gives people peace of mind, especially a developing country like ours where there's a lot of corruption and government failure. I think the average person might feel comforted in the fact that our government is in talks with a country that is perceived to be better.
But they're talking to Joe Biden.
The face of
Will he even find a group in the envoy that is actually visiting?
I don't know.
He's going to end up in the wrong room.
I can't wait to watch. Now, this is also important. There will be discussions on climate as well as on health. I wonder in what direction that will be going.
Health, digital passports. Well, it can literally be about preparing what Bill Gates spoke about, the next pandemic, the next big biological warfare threat, etc. And it could be chemical, biological. It doesn't matter what it is. As long as it's a threat and people are afraid, our freedoms can be taken away. State of emergencies can actually be implemented around the world, especially in African countries. And during the last pandemic, many African countries actually didn't oblige. I think money is going to play a big role here. Bribery and corruption, and knowing how to control the monetary system is understanding real power, not political power. Power over politicians, over governments, over large corporations. So if you can control the money, there's a lot that you can do. And at the moment, the US dollar is quite strong against certainly the South African rand and many other Southern African economies. The dollar is very strong in countries like Zim. They actually use the US dollar as a form of exchange when their Zim dollar crashed. And at any stage, the US can actually go and crash any of these economies if they want to. All their puppets that they've placed in those countries, they can crash those economies.
It's very frightening to think that there's a few people in every country, there's a few people making life and death decisions for the entire population of that nation.
I actually had a look recently at the top 20 list of billionaires, dollar billionaires within Africa. And there's quite a few of them from South Africa. And within that group lies the power, not the politicians. In fact, one of them is actually a president of a country, which I found fascinating.
It'll be interesting to actually trace how they obtained their wealth and how much of that wealth was obtained in certain industries like the green energy industry.
Well, certainly a lot of these industries is either building, so cement, a lot of them, something to do with cement or building, the oil and gas industry. So all of these industries that actually makes an economy run. That is where most of these people made their money, and then obviously the Ruperts, the Oppenheimers, the Koos Bekkers of South Africa, literally controlling every facet of South African society.
The second day would be dedicated to the US Africa Business Forum, and we just spoke about that. Money. Yeah. And a full day of opportunities for African and US businesses to come together with delegations from the continent.
And you have to ask yourself, who will those people be? How many of them? When there's 60 million people in South Africa, will there be 20 people? Will there be 100 people? What percentage of people will hold the power, and how will they wield that power?
So, yeah, we're getting to the end of the article. So the idea here is again to look at the linkages between democratic institutions and governance and how they impact long-term peace and prosperity. Peace and prosperity for who, though?
They speak about democracy a lot, or democratic institutions.
Yeah, it's a word
when America is not a democracy, in fact, at all. They're a republic. And they're federal states. So you won't find the word democracy anywhere in their constitution. Nowhere.
Unlike our constitution actually specifies that we are a multi-party democracy. So
the South African constitution.
The Republic of South Africa, but the South African constitution specifies we're a multi-party democracy. So we at least try to pretend we're a democracy.
Yeah, the pretense is actually there. But in the US, it is officially not a democracy, never was. I don't know if it ever will be. It will be interesting to see how things pan out. Maybe Biden can learn something from these African leaders, because some of them actually have some weight, you know.
Do you think he has a long-term memory, though?
Yes, true. Maybe. Well, he doesn't have a vice president that could actually learn from anyone, because she's not teachable. Well, neither is Biden. I don't think he's teachable either.
It's an interesting situation. The last little sentence here says, we will see our secretaries of state and defense and the administrator of the U.S. Agency for International Development coming together with a set of African leaders to talk about these interlinkages between democratic institutions, governance, and how they impact.
That U.S. Agency for International Development just makes chills go up my spine.
Here are some facts on USAID. I call them USAID. It was the founders, John F. Kennedy, actually. And
maybe he had good intentions back then.
Many things start with good intentions. I'm sure the WEF and the UN started with good intentions. Doesn't get
so-called good intentions.
It has over 10,000 employees and an annual budget of $27.2 billion.
And most presidents believe that this money goes forth and does wonderful things. And you've actually actively fought some of the things that USAID funded within South Africa.
Definitely, they funded the Comprehensive Sexuality Education Program in South Africa, billions of rands. And it's just sad, again, that they see human beings as a problem needing to be solved.
So they'll probably discuss this again and start with a massive push.
Yes.
And then we're going to have to, dust off the cobwebs and get the muscles going again, ready for doing
active
some
citizenry.
active citizenry. It worked last time.
In all its forms.
Yes.
So that's it. That's the article. 49 heads of state will be meeting with President Joe Biden very soon in December. Can't wait to see that.
Is it possible to meet with him? He can't even meet with a pulpit or the teleprompter or anything. He's like disconnected from his own mind. So I'm not quite sure if there will be a meeting. They might be together in the same room. But watch the space and we will probably update you on this as it develops. It's fascinating. Africa and the US. It just doesn't sound right.
I just want to end with the question I started with. Do you think the United States needs Africa, or do you think Africa needs the United States? Put your comments in the comment section below.
Subscribe to this channel. Click the bell icon so you can get notifications for future videos. And then please share these videos with your friends and family.
I'll be sharing the article that I read from on our Facebook group called Stranger Than Fiction. So you can go to Facebook and have a look. We'll also put the link in the description. And then you can read the article for yourself. One final thought I'd like to leave with you is basically between Russia and America both having interests in South Africa, it really feels like two parents going through a divorce, fighting for custody for the sad little child, which is us, South Africa. And it's really, really ugly. No one really cares about the people of South Africa, while these nations are fighting to get their hands on our natural mineral wealth. I guess what's stranger than fiction here is that Africa is a continent that is extremely wealthy and yet so powerless. That is what is stranger than fiction. Please make sure you subscribe and go to the Facebook page. We also have a Twitter profile now that we've just started up. So you can go onto Twitter, search Stranger Than Fiction. Thank you so much for listening. Please put all your thoughts, comments, questions in the comment box. And we'll see you on Thursday for our 2-hour live stream where we will be unpacking some of the most memorable and bizarre events from the year 2022.
That is tomorrow night. See you in the live stream at 8.